ostensibly for Israel, but he is expediting, speeding up, accelerating the destruction of the Jewish state in the Levant. Now, that's not the big thing that's happening. The big thing is this struggle between the East and the West, if you will. But it's all part of the same fabric right now. And as I've said, the danger here, and I think, just to get back to Saudi Arabia for a minute, I think it's gone. I think just like Israel is gone, I think Saudi Arabia is gone. At least it's gone as the state that it's been for the last, well, since FDR and the king met. And Israel's gone as a Jewish state. So we're changing lots with this incredibly incompetent leader we have in Washington, but he's being forced into some of the defeat by these inexorable forces that are clashing right now on the world scene. And they're clashing on a front, Nima, that runs all the way, as I've said many times, it's almost 8,000 kilometers from the Arctic Circle all the way down to where we have our ships, 1,000 nautical miles, I'm told, still, our carriers, our capital ships in the Indian Ocean. And that's another indicator that this is not a maritime world anymore, because these carriers are afraid to go any closer because they'll be sunk. They'll be destroyed. That's a real comment, because this is the instrument most noted in the world of the American empire's ability to bring military power into your backyard tomorrow morning. This instrument that was made, famous around the world by these little wars we've conducted from their platforms, is gone. It is no longer a symbol of American power worth chump change. It just remains for a couple of them to be sunk to prove that dramatically and decisively. But that is an indicator of how the American empire has walked itself into a defeat that is not just like Afghanistan and Iraq and Somalia and Libya and a host of other little wars were. This is fundamental. This is a defeat of the empire, a massive defeat of the empire. And these symbols are going to go with that defeat. And we're seeing it right now, and we're going to see it even further. And I'm really worried, as I said before, that we're going to see some mushroom clouds in the process too. Not least am I worried about that because when the empire understands, and Trump never will, but there are people around Trump who will understand that we are going down, as it were, literally and figuratively, then we will resort to nuclear weapons use. There are people already talking about it in the group that runs around in between Trump and these oligarchs. They're already talking about, why aren't we using them on Iran?
Do you think, Larry, do you see any possibility of Israel getting involved before the election happening in Israel?
It'll all depend on how Netanyahu assesses his chances. I think his last-ditch effort, if he thinks he's going to be defeated, will be to search for that decisive victory over his principal enemy. And he'll do anything to bring that about, including dragging the United States in combination for a joint attack. But it won't happen until you'll see the precursor, I think, Nima, will be what he does that is violative of all the agreements, but very much designed to keep Hezbollah from entering the conflict once it commences in Lebanon. Watch his actions in Lebanon. And I've got a feeling Erdogan is watching that too.
What is your assessment of Donald Trump's position, the Donald Trump sort of strategy with this trade?
You detect a strategy?
No, I don't see that.
I detect ooh, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's all he knows what to do. And the shame of it is the military, at least as far as I can detect. Now, I understand General Kane has made some real objections, solid objections, because the other commanders in chief in the different AORs, Europe, Africa, Pacific, are coming in and telling him, what do you mean allowing all these stores to be shot? What do you mean dwindling the Patriot list down so far, the THAAD list down so far? What do you mean using all these munitions that we might need because they're in our war plans in case we have to execute them? So they're putting a lot of pressure on Kane, but they're not getting much headway in terms of Trump's and Hegseth. So they keep doing it.
But do you feel that, does that mean that they're going to continue with this tit for tat? Or because in my opinion, with the blockade, it comes to a moment that we're going to see heavy sort of fight happening between the two sides. It's not going to continue the same way that we've been witnessing before. Because 2 days ago, we had a statement from the IRGC. They say the blockade is war, is declaration of war against us. Is not going to be any sort of pause or ceasefire, anything of that. There is no negotiations happening. We know that. And the mediators, it seems that they're trying to do their best. Pakistan, Qatar, and the only real negotiations that are happening is happening between Iran and Oman with the case of the Strait of Hormuz. Nothing between Iran and the United States.
If Bradley Cooper, Admiral Bradley Cooper, the commander-in-chief of Central Command, if he is scared to bring his carriers inside 1,000 nautical miles, then how do we bring any kind of real naval power, which is what it's going to take, to do what Trump has intimated he might do with regard to the Strait of Hormuz, open it by force? How would you do that? I don't see any way to do that. You bring in that symbol of American power, and it is, at least in one instance, that's all it'll take, destroyed. Destroyed probably in less time than you and I have talked so far. How do you explain that? And how do you explain it to the American people? And how do you deal with it in terms of the war? That would be traumatic. And that's the only way you're going to fight a conflict in the vicinity of the Strait of Hormuz with a reasonable chance, even for a moment or two. I don't say over the long term, but for a moment or two, gaining superiority that you could then claim has opened the Strait of Hormuz, and it is now moving traffic again and doing it safely because these two carriers, three carriers, whatever, are sitting off Chabahar, and protecting everything with their air power. My first question would be, how much does that air power have left? My second question would be, when are you going to do that, Bradley? When are those carriers going to come into range where your air power could actually mean something without having to be tanked to the extent that is meaningless? That move would indicate just how serious we are about combat power close enough to the Strait of Hormuz to even temporarily say we had control over it. And I think the Iranians know that. I think they know that, and I think they're fully prepared to take out at least one, if not two, of those carriers.
There are two suspicious attacks. The latest one on Saudi Arabia, Yanbu refinery, which was attacked by drones. Nobody was taking responsibility of that attack. No. And some people said maybe Saudi Arabia is faking, somehow is trying to put some false information out. That's one of the rhetorics right now. The other one is someone hit them and they're gonna hit back. And finally, they have decided to attack together with the United States, attack Iraq. Part of the Iraqi army, by the way, not part of the resistance that are not, This was a huge step on the part of Saudi Arabia. The other point was yesterday, the drone attack on American ships in Egypt.
Egypt, yeah.
This was somehow, New York Times came out with a new article saying Iran is behind that attack. Then Iranian foreign minister came out and said,
no,
we didn't do that. We consider them as a friendly country. We don't need to go that far. Why? What is in it for us to attack Egypt? Then Egypt said, we are investigating the case. Later on, they said it wasn't Iran.
it wasn't.
It was not Iran.
Yeah.
The Egypt government said it was not Iran.
That's what I heard too. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you're describing what I'm talking about. You're talking about it at a tactical level, but nonetheless, a tactical level that has the opportunity, the potential to go operational strategic overnight. It's like that's what we used to call the CNN effect. A single soldier in Mogadishu, for example, and his death on television on CNN could be a strategic event. Where you're talking about the same thing right now. These two wars are both pregnant with the possibility of a little tactical event suddenly blooming into being a strategic event. And this is a case in point. And here's the problem, Nima. The antagonist and the people behind the antagonist, even more so, the people behind what's happening in Spain, for example, with Morocco, they know that. And so they do these things, their intelligence services, their street secret services, I'll call them. They do these things in order to take advantage of that opportunity to make a tiny little event become a strategic event. And that's the dangers of having such a wide array of conflict going on right now. You got a lot of players. You got a lot of people a lot of intelligence agencies that can play in it, spoiling for something to do to impact what they think is their future budget and their future existence. They all want to do things. And these opportunities come up, and you got someone like Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth and Ratcliffe and others who don't know their butt from a hole in the ground. And so they give these orders, do anything you can to help what we're doing. And they go out and they do it. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm saying that this is a possibility, and it's an environment that's just pregnant with these possibilities. Look at the false flags, I think, that have occurred associated with Ukraine. Many of them have been discounted, but they nonetheless have done the damage that they've done, particularly to Russia. It's to Putin's credit and the Russian military general staff's credit that they have not acted on some of these things that they clearly believe, and maybe their intelligence services confirmed for them, were false flag. Who knows who struck the ship in Egypt? That's the question. And for what purpose? And who knows what happened in the Red Sea and for what purpose? But we do know what is happening on a strategic basis in a general sense. And that is that Saudi Arabia is being isolated, and it is probably going to find it very difficult to continue on its present path and on its present association with the empire. It's going to find that increasingly untenable, as have Kuwait, as has Qatar, as has the UAE, despite their claims to the contrary, as has even Oman, and certainly Bahrain, which I'm told now is pretty much a basket case of a country, if it ever was a country. So you've got this entire fabric unraveling in the Gulf, all of which consequentially is going to force us out of the Gulf, going to force us out of the Southwest Asia, I think. The Saudis are going to be left holding the bag. And they think they're holding a bag that includes a nuclear agreement that will allow them to do whatever they want to do in the future with their nuclear program, and so forth and so on. And even Trump has negated that in a sense by saying, no, it's only if you agree to sign up to the Abraham Accords. And they're not going to do that as long as they're holding forth that a viable route to a Palestinian state is a necessity first and foremost before they do that. Do they back off that And what happens to their street if they back off that? Who knows? This is all full of variables that all point at one, the United States being kicked out of the region, two, the Gulf cooperation countries not being a shadow even of their former self, three, Saudi Arabia having to think hard about its existence and its relationship with the empire, and four, as I've said before, global conflict. All aided and abetted by the little characters messing around in these two seminal conflicts in Central Europe and Southwest Asia. The one, a war of choice, the one in Southwest Asia by a stupid, ignorant idiot of a president, and the other, a war of choice by proxy by a stupid, idiot president called Joe Biden. Lay the blame at the feet of Washington, if you will, but Europe has been very helpful, especially London, Paris, and Berlin.
Larry, you mentioned Bahrain and Kuwait, and it seems that the ongoing war is turning them, in my opinion, as if they decide to continue this war, they're going to be turned into a desert in these two countries.
Bahrain already is, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some pictures of the destruction there. Oh, I mean, and look at what it did to us. I mean, it took about that, and Jordan took about all of our, if not all of our, early warning capacity away. We no longer have any early warning capacity to say, oh, wow, you know, they're doing that. That missile's coming towards Jordan, or that missile's coming towards Bahrain, or it's gone. We don't have any early warning capacity anymore.
Do you think the leadership in Saudi Arabia understands that they're on the path of becoming Ukraine 2.0, in my opinion? Because you know how Ukraine was before this war started, the war between Russia and Ukraine started. Look at Ukraine today. Nothing left.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can call it Ukraine anymore.
No, I don't either. I don't. And if Odessa really goes, as it were, and the ports around her, Odessa being the most important one, it's not just a rump state, it's a basket case. It's a basket case.